I woke to the phone ringing at 2 a.m., a sound I'd grown used to, but never this kind of urgency. The screen lit up with my sister's name, Ruth Ann. My heart sank before I picked up. Mom fell. She can't move her legs, Ruth Ann sobbed. The words hit like ice. I sat up in bed, the sheets tangling around my legs as if reality itself had pulled me down. My mind raced back to the nights I walked away from the house, pack in hand, age 18. My mother, Lorraine, had looked me in the eye and said, "You're nothing without this family." I had believed her once. I stopped believing her a long time ago. I answered, voice flat. "I'm coming." It sounded rehearsed, even to me. Blood is a contract, but guilt is the prison. I hated that I still felt obligated. Rain rattled the windows of my apartment in suburban Austin as I drove toward the house I'd once escaped. I thought about the car I sold years ago, the cigarette habit I'd broken, the voice in my head that whispered never go back. And yet, here I was. Because loyalty can be weaponized. When I arrived, the house had changed. The driveway was lined with sleek medical transport vans, lights flashing like a hospital gate. Inside, the living room had been stripped and replaced with hospital beds, oxygen tanks, LED monitors blinking rhythmically. My mother lay there, pale, thin, her voice small and rehearsed. "I knew you'd come, my baby girl." The word baby felt like a trap. Ruth Ann hovered nearby, relief plastered across her face. We had to move fast. She insisted on staying home. Valerie, the nurse, breezed in with perfect posture and medical jargon. "Mrs. Moore's vitals are stable. We'll continue therapy here." The accent lilted, the words too smooth. I watched the nurse for a moment, the kind of glance you don't give someone who's dying. In the hallway a neighbor, Harold Finch, peeked out of his doorway. He mouthed a question, his eyes asked why. I didn't answer. Instead I touched the hospital bed's rail, it felt loose, and saw an 4-bag hanging, half empty. If she's so fragile, why the lipstick? I asked myself quietly. My mother reached for my hand. I clasped it but pulled back when I saw the static glaze in her eyes. She said, "I need you more than ever." And I said nothing. Because somewhere inside me I recognized this wasn't rescue, it was rent. I signed checks for $9,500 a month, all rolled into care. The word hung heavy between us like a creditor's note. "Whatever it takes," I whispered. And she smiled too brightly. We sat in that room for hours. I watched the rain trace patterns on the window. The monitors beeped. My phone buzzed with messages of sympathy. I lit a cigarette for the first time in years. The tang of smoke filled my lungs and the guilt filled my soul. Harold knocked. "Saw your mom walking last week," he began, trailing off. I looked up at him. Mistaken? Or finally seeing something I didn't want to? I asked. Later, I lay awake again, memories flooding in. I saw myself at 18, standing under the same raincoat and gaze the night I left. My mother's voice echoed, "You're nothing without this family." That thought threatened to drown me, except this time I wasn't leaving in anger. I was staying in scrutiny. I whispered in the dark, "Some things don't change, except now I have the power and no idea what to do with it." And I asked you, reader, would you come back if the woman who broke you now needed you to save her? 3 weeks passed, and each Sunday became a ritual. I'd walk up the steps of my mother's house, and like clockwork, the scene inside would unfold the same way. Classical music played softly in the background, Chopin or Debussy, always something tragic enough to score a funeral. Lorraine lay nestled in her hospital bed, oxygen monitor rhythmically beeping beside her, the lights dimmed just right. Brittany, the so-called nurse, dabbed my mother's forehead with a damp cloth like she was in some Victorian tragedy. And then it would begin. My mother's voice, weak yet somehow theatrical, would rise into the silence. "I've been thinking about forgiveness," she'd start, pausing just long enough to catch my eyes. "Especially toward you." The words struck the same note every time, rehearsed down to the breath. I'd nod, offer a gentle word, then let the moment die. What else was there to say when the apology was part of a performance? This last Sunday, something changed. Brittany wiped Lorraine's face and said softly, "You're so brave, Lolo." The name stopped me cold. Lolo. That was a family nickname, one my mother despised outsiders using. I didn't say anything, but I made a mental note. Brittany wasn't just a nurse. She was in this. And suddenly, everything felt like theater. Would you believe the pain if every performance had the same curtain call? Later that week, I sat at my dining table with Ruth Ann and her husband, Wesley. A manila folder lay between us. I had started tracking the monthly payments, $9,500 like clockwork, but the hospital coding didn't match anything in the regional database. "Where is this money going?" I asked, flatly. Wesley stammered. "You know, costs are up everywhere. Specialists, private therapy. And the boutique receipts?" I added, flipping to a $1,100 charge from a luxury store. Ruth Ann leaned forward. "Why are you counting dollars when it's Mom's life?" Because guilt was always the currency of this family. But this time, I wanted receipts. Wesley stood up to get some air, his phone lighting up as he left. I glimpsed the screen, a group chat labeled Project Guilt, "She's close." I stared at it, stunned. A script had been written. And I was the audience. 2 days later, I returned unannounced. Maria, the young housekeeper, greeted me in the hallway. She glanced around, then whispered, "Señorita, your mother walks." "I've seen her. She dances sometimes when no one's here." My breath caught. When? Early morning. Before the nurse comes. Then, almost on cue, a scream pierced the air. "Help me!" I fell again, my mother cried from the living room. Brittany rushed past. "Grab the lift. She's hurt." I stayed still. Maria slowly walked away, her message delivered. I stepped into the room to see Lorraine writhing, eyes glossy with fake tears, holding her leg. The timing was perfect. Too perfect. Would you dare believe the truth when everyone else is playing make-believe? That night, I sat alone on my balcony. The city lights blurred behind a film of doubt. I called Naomi, a friend from college who'd since become a legal advisor. "I need advice," I said. She didn't hesitate. "Do you want the truth?" "I think I already know it." "Then you need to confirm it. If she's faking, she's not doing it alone. That means it's organized. And if it's organized, it has a weakness." I stared into the dark living room window. "What if you watched them," Naomi said, "when they didn't know they were being watched?" "You mean spy on my own mother?" "No. Spy on the lie you're funding." I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to my closet. Buried in the back was my old purse, inside, my nanny cam. Bought when I thought my ex was cheating. Never used. I set it on the counter. It blinked once. Morning came. I opened Facebook and saw Ruth Ann had posted an article. "Brave survivor, one woman's fight from her bed." Lorraine's photo sat at the top. Pale, eyes closed, a portrait of quiet heroism. "So proud of Mom," Ruth Ann had captioned. "Strength in every breath." Wesley had commented, "She's our angel." My stomach turned. That afternoon, Lorraine held the article like a trophy. "People look up to me now. Don't ruin this image." I didn't answer. But I'd already made up my mind. I waited until after midnight to plant the small camera inside the ornate vase on the side table. The house was quiet then, except for the soft breathing of the oxygen machine and the low hum of the classical music in the background. That's when the curtain thinned. A week later, at 5:12 a.m., I reviewed the footage. There she was, Lorraine Moore. Not slumped. Not immobile. She stretched her legs on the hardwood floor. Yoga moves. Barefoot. The oxygen tube hung loosely, like an ornament. In the next scene, I caught Brittany entering. "Mom, can you bring me the almond milk later? I want it before my massage." The term massage, not therapeutic, indulgent. My heart stilled. I didn't gasp. I didn't leap. I simply noted, timestamp 5:12. Saved the footage 3 times. Backed up twice. In front of the mirror I said, "You're not paranoid if the lies are printed in high resolution. If your mother faked pain to control you, would you confront her, or watch longer?" I chose to watch. 2 days later I sat with Naomi. She looked at the video on her laptop, brows furrowed. "This is more than a family drama. This is financial abuse." She slid the file toward me. "Why now?" Marcus, her lawyer acquaintance, would ask soon. I replied, "Because now I have proof." Suddenly an envelope appeared on my doorstep. Bold letters, elder abuse complaint. Lorraine claimed I had verbally intimidated her, emotionally neglected her. Ruthann and Wesley had signed witness statements. I curled the paper in my fist, "Then I'll play the villain who wins." Naomi's voice echoed, "She's not just faking illness. She's crafting a narrative, and you're the target." The next day I visited a clinic listed in Lorraine's claims. Dr. Feingold. I asked the receptionist why she couldn't be found. The nurse leaned in and whispered, "We haven't seen Lorraine Moore in 2 years. The doctor retired last summer." Marcus's voice on the phone, "She forged care receipts, digital signatures, claimed therapy sessions that never existed." I stared at the pile of receipts, luxury billboards hidden beneath care. Have you ever looked at a signature and realized it never belonged to the person it claimed to protect? I have. That evening I cornered Ruthann after the church service. Her cheeks pink with guilt or shame, I couldn't tell. "You weren't here for everything," she said. I showed her the clip, Lorraine walking unassisted, sipping wine, the oxygen monitor still ticking. "Still think I'm being cruel?" I asked. Ruthann's voice cracked. "She told us if we didn't go along she'd cut us off. Wesley's house depends on her signature." "Then you sold the truth for a mortgage," I said. She opened her mouth but closed it again. She watched me walk away. I thought, the thing about lies is they grow roots. Especially when watered with silence. Later, I met Naomi at my kitchen table. If I shout now, it becomes my tantrum. If I build the case, it becomes her downfall. She handed me a tiny recording pen. Truth doesn't need an audience. It just needs a moment. I placed the device on my desk and said aloud, so I could hear it, I didn't want revenge. I wanted reality to echo louder than fiction. This time I wasn't just the daughter returning. I was the guardian of evidence. And in the quiet hum of that night, I understood something. One eye sees the performance. 2 eyes uncover the truth. I arrived at the hall an hour before the guests. The suburban Austin night air was warm, the flowers at the entrance perfect, the 60 gold balloons shining under the marquee lights. I slung my old camera bag over my shoulder, gear hidden inside. Every seat was filled, every cork popped in expectation. I moved behind tall palm plants, taped a quiet camera under the buffet table. Mom stood at the center, Lorraine Moore in full gala mode, her wheelchair parked just to the side like a prop on display. The music started, and I watched her greet the crowd with that practiced broad smile. Ruth Ann, glowing in silk, raised a toast, to Mom, your strength inspires us all. Cheers. Applause. I sipped water, but inside I felt the glass crack. Brittany winked at me across the room, said softly, you know she won't let us call a wheelchair boring. Laughter. I froze. The nickname, the wink, everything too rehearsed. Everything staged. Have you ever watched someone perform kindness when the lights are on, and wondered what happens off camera? Because I was watching. I felt like the only person who knew something was wrong. At 8:15 p.m., Mom moved to the podium. I tapped the record button on my phone, live stream active. On the screen, Brittany held a headset mic and whispered, Mom, you need to stand up for a minute, show them you feel better. Silence. Mom rose, pushed the wheelchair aside, spun, embraced Wesley. Applause erupted. I watched the live chat flood, incredible recovery. What a brave woman. Meanwhile, visitors in the hall cheered. And then I heard it, Wesley leaning in and whispering to Mom, we nailed it. A breathless chuckle. The screen froze my stomach momentarily. All this time, so real to everyone else, is filmed to me. When the spotlight is meant to hide the truth, who wins, and who watches? My phone buzzed with Naomi's text, linked to article, Survivor's Journey from Her Bed. I opened it. The headline stared back, Brave Survivor, one woman's fight from her bed. Below, Mom's photo, pale, frail, captured earlier. Ruth Ann's caption, so proud of Mom. Strength in every breath. Wesley's comment, she's our angel. I scrolled. Comments hit me, grateful daughter, are we really clapping for lies? Someone wrote, where's the proof this is real? Later, I received a message from one of Mom's old friends, she did this once before, with Dad's money. My heart clenched. The props, the headline, the cheering, they were all scaffolding. Cameras don't lie. I had mine ready. Have you ever seen a hero on stage, and then watched them off stage and wondered which face was real? In the car later, I opened my private cloud folder. Footage. Receipts. Luxury car service bills disguised as medical transport. I texted Naomi, game's changed. Her reply, let's write the script they'll have to answer to. I deleted the public live stream, kept the master copy. I closed my eyes and said aloud, you lied about needing me. Now I'll decide if I owe you anything. Sometimes the loudest applause happens when you walk away from the show. I found a file named project_guiltmasterplan.docs, timestamped the night before the party. Proof. The last door had opened. I sat in my car, the engine idle, the marquee lights thinning behind tinted glass. The quiet wrapped around me. No cheers now. Just me. Just what I knew. The morning sun was sharp against the glass of Marcus's downtown Austin office. I sat across from him, a folder of receipts, forged statements, and hours of video footage stacked neatly between us. His voice was steady. This isn't a family argument anymore, he said. This is insurance fraud, elder manipulation, and financial coercion. I stared out at the city traffic below, the world moving as though nothing had changed, though mine had come to a grinding halt. Ruth Ann showed up later, eyes red but face painted for sympathy. Mom doesn't deserve this, Avellini. Don't drag her to court. She already gave you everything. I looked at her, unmoved. No. She gave herself nothing. I'm just taking back what's mine. The law firm moved quickly. Within hours, court orders were filed, bank accounts frozen, even Lorraine's silver Mercedes listed under seized assets. Somewhere in an offshore folder, another account had been discovered. Relief came in strange waves, cold, clinical. Fear too. The moment you turn a mother into a legal case, you stop being a daughter. But if you've been paying someone who only pretended to need you, when do you stop playing the game? Marcus watched me from behind his desk. Public perception will sting first. But the truth will heal slower and better. I nodded, though I wasn't sure either of us believed it yet. 2 days later, Naomi called. You need to see this, she said, sending a scan. It was a letter, old and yellowed at the edges. My father's handwriting, slanted, elegant, and haunted. Dear Avellini. I know what's happening. I couldn't stop it, but you must. Your mother's sickness began long before her body pretended to fail. I thought love could quiet the lie, but it only fed it. Protect yourself. I read it in his old study, the scent of pipe tobacco still lingering in the wood. My father had known. He had carried her deceit in silence to protect me. He left me the keys to the truth, I whispered, but I locked them behind doubt. I photographed the letter and added it to the case file. Marcus smiled grimly. This is gold, proof she's been manipulating for decades. But gold attracts attention. By that evening, the letter leaked to local media. The headline glared, Widower's secret haunts the Moore family. My father's pain had become public fodder. Have you ever found the truth your parent buried, and wondered why nobody else looked? The next morning, I entered the courthouse foyer. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. On a nearby table sat an old family photo, Mom, Dad, Ruth Ann, and me. Ruth Ann brushed against it, the frame slipped, glass shattering across the marble floor. Lorraine gasped dramatically, look at her. She tore our memories. Click. Flash. Dozens of photos in seconds. Daughter destroys family portrait. The headlines were written before lunch. I stood silent, Marcus's voice firm in my ear, let them call you cold. Silence is your armor. I walked through the hallway, past the stairs, the whispers. Public shame is its own kind of weather, it soaks through, even when you pretend not to feel it. But that was the moment I understood, reputation was my mother's shield. And truth would be mine. When your image is shattered for you, do you pick up the pieces or walk away? By nightfall, the noise faded. I returned to the old family estate, the one my father built, where every corner still whispered his restraint. I closed the door behind me, exhaled, and began to record a voice memo. I didn't break the photograph, I said quietly. I broke the lie. Naomi's text arrived just then, case file ready. Tomorrow, you call her bluff. I opened my laptop, uploaded every piece, the footage, the receipts, my father's letter. The progress bar crawled across the screen. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, almost on cue. When it reached 100%, I whispered, let it rain. Late morning light filtered through the wide windows of the bookstore, tracing soft lines across the wooden floors. I sat behind the counter, surrounded by the books my father once held in his hands. Each spine was a ghost, each page a conversation we never finished. The envelope sat untouched for weeks until today. Dad's words for you, it read in his handwriting, familiar, curved, sure. Inside, a bound manuscript, his unpublished memoir. The title caught in my throat, When the Mask Was My Shadow. I flipped to the first page. The dedication read, "To my daughter, who didn't run from the fire, she walked through it." I read a line aloud, barely whispering, "You weren't the villain. They cast you that role." Outside, the sidewalk was quiet. I took a photo of the cover and posted it to my barely used account. Captioned simply, "Truth is a paperback away." Naomi called minutes later. "The motion documents are ready. I can file them tonight." "Tomorrow morning," I replied. "I want today to be mine." Have you ever inherited someone's secrets and realized your life changed not because of what they hid, but because you chose to open the box? I turned the bookstore's sign to closed. The bell above the door jingled softly behind me as I stepped into golden stillness. The local nursing home was quiet that afternoon. The hall smelled of lemon disinfectant and worn-out apologies. Lorraine's room was smaller than I expected, no machines, no oxygen tanks, no signs of the performance. She sat upright in an ordinary chair, dressed plainly. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I didn't come for thanks," I replied, not unkindly. Ruth Ann stood in the doorway. Her eyes met mine but offered nothing. She left without a word. Lorraine reached into her drawer and pulled out a letter, envelope marked in her cursive, Avellini. She didn't hand it to me. Just placed it on the edge of the table. I looked at it. I didn't move. Instead, I placed my father's memoir beside it. "You always needed a stage," I said. "He left you the script. I chose the exit." She didn't argue. For once, she was just still. I left the letter untouched. I didn't come for reconciliation. I came to return the weight I'd carried far too long. Do you stay for the apology or walk away because you deserve the peace more than the words? Evening came gently. I returned to the bookstore, turned on the warm amber lamp above the memoir display. Glass of wine in hand, I stood for a moment. "They said a daughter pays for loyalty," I murmured. I chose to invest in truth. At home, I lit a candle on the desk beside my father's photo. I opened a blank document and typed the title, "Paying for Someone's Weakness Cost Me My Childhood." One paragraph in, I paused, then opened my email. To Marcus, file tomorrow. I'm done being part of the script. Then I dragged the final digital folder, project_guilt, into the trash. Clicked delete. Naomi texted seconds later, "Congratulations. You're free." I replied, "Freedom isn't a loud exhale. It's a quiet door closing behind you." As I shut down my laptop, the screen went dark. A single notification appeared. "You've received a new message from Lorraine Moore. Sometimes walking away is the loudest scream you'll ever make, and the softest relief you'll ever feel.